Hi everyone, welcome. We are excited to have you here this afternoon to learn a little bit more about our master's in social work at the University of Chicago's Crown Family School. I will get started with a quick agenda, and while we're going through the agenda, I'll also start with a quick round of introductions so you know who's in the room, who's speaking to you today. My name is Aleia McKessy. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an assistant director of admissions here at the Crown Family School. I am also an alum of the social work program, the full-time program, so have been where you are, almost 10 years actually to the time, and have gone through the program. So excited to share a little bit of my experience as well. Also here joining us today is the admissions team, Ron Martin, our director of admissions, Jamal Banks, an assistant director of admissions, and Emma Toomey, our admissions specialist. They will be in the chat answering any questions as we go through. So if you have anything that you would like answered, feel free to put it in the chat. And they will get to it if we don't get to it later. We'll also, as you see in the agenda, have some time at the end for questions too. We are also, during the presentation, we will have some guest speakers. Robyn Dimaano is here for the Dean of Students Office to share about student development. And Nikki Goodman will be speaking as an alum about her experience in the program. And we should have Melissa Williams from Field as well. So a full packed agenda so we can get right into it. A little history of the Crown Family School. So we were originally the School of Social Service Administration, or SSA. SSA was one of the first schools of social work in the United States, and we opened in 1908. In 1920, SSA became part of the University of Chicago. And in early 2021, we changed our name to the Crown Family School of Social Work Policy and Practice due to a generous gift from the Crown Family Foundation. We are currently ranked #3 School of Social Work per US News and World Report. The Crown Family School has 3 different programs that we offer here. So we just wanted to share them briefly. We'll talk today about this first one, our Master's of Arts in Social Work, Social Policy, and Social Administration. And this is for those that are wanting to pursue different careers across a diverse area of the social sector, including individual, family, community, management, and policy levels, both domestically and globally. This is our program that's equivalent to an MSW. We also have our Master's in Social Sector Leadership and Nonprofit Management, or SSL. And this is for those who want to work within the social sector or nonprofit or government areas, and to advance into areas of agency leadership, including roles as program managers, directors, and executives. And then we also have a doctoral program. So our doctoral students are here to deepen their mastery of social science theory and research methods so that they can contribute to scholarly knowledge in innovative ways. The PhD program is for those who want to become university level faculty and do university level research or do high level policy research. We start off with this nice definition of what is social work. So the first bullet here is the quote from the NASW on their definition of social work, which is: the primary mission of the social work profession is to enhance human well-being and to help meet the basic and complex needs of all people, with a particular focus on those who are vulnerable, oppressed, and living in poverty. So within social work, we really are looking at the person as well as their environment and all the aspects that come into contact with a person. We talk a lot about 3 levels of social work, and so this will come up when we talk about curriculum. So we like to define the 3 levels here, so you have an idea of what we're talking about when we're talking about how our curriculum works. The first here is our micro level practice, and that is for those who are interested in working with individuals in a one-on-one or small group situation. This could be careers like counseling, casework, anything where you're really working directly with people. Our meso level practice is that middle level, and that's for those interested in working more within groups or communities, local nonprofits, things where you're working in careers around community organizing, working within a local community organization, really working with that level. And then our macro level practice is our high level intervention. So those who want to really work on social problems from the top down, thinking about careers in policy, advocacy, or leading maybe larger or wider scoped nonprofits in their administration. A little background of our student demographic. So this is from the 2023-2024 year, so last school year, all social work master's students. So you'll see here we have students that come to our program from all over the country and all over the world, 38 states and 14 countries. And they're coming to learn from us and to contribute to our school. The average age is 28, but the range is anywhere from 22 to 57, or was last year. So we have a wide variety of students within our social work master's program, some who are coming directly from undergrad, and some who have been working in the field or a different field, and are coming back to us after some time away from undergrad. Our race and ethnicity breakdown percentages are there, as well as our male to female ratio too. So you can kind of see what our classes look like. The University of Chicago and therefore the Crown Family School is on the quarter system. So this is for next academic year, so 2025-2026. You'll see the breakdown of the 4 quarters when you would start and end class, and there'll be true breaks in between each quarter. So you can kind of envision what that year would look like. A weekly schedule. So this is just a tentative view of what classes and field may look like. You'll see Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the first year there's class, and Tuesday, Thursday would be in field, and that reverses in the second year. And this is for the full-time program. So a nice break between classes and field. And Fridays are typically off or sometimes in field in the second year. The class times are listed there as well. So we do have a block schedule. So each class is held once a week for 3 hours. And so you'll see those when those classes would be held during those days listed there as well. So now we wanted to shift into talking about the different enrollment options. So depending on where you're coming to us from or how you want to participate in our social work master's program, we have a couple different options for you to think through. The first is our advanced standing program, and this is our program for students who have a BSW from a CSWE accredited institution within the past 5 years. So they're coming to us with that BSW, and therefore it takes only 1 year to complete. So you're doing 1 full year, 1 full calendar year. So the classes, as the fourth bullet point down says, start in June or in the summer. So you'll start in June and then go for 1 full year up until the following end of May, early June. There's 1 advanced field placement for the advanced standing program, and it's about 25 to 30 students per cohort of advanced standing students. So a smaller class that you get to start with in the summer and really start acclimating to the school, to potentially Chicago if you're moving here, but they tend to build a pretty close relationship. We will actually have a webinar about advanced standing tomorrow at the same time, so if you're interested in that, you can definitely sign up there as well. Some of this information will be the same, but we'll also have a student who can speak to that as well. Our full-time program. So our full-time program is our largest program, and that is due to a couple of factors. The one first being that there is no academic or professional background that's required to participate in our full-time program. So this is really where we see a whole host of students either coming from different areas of study or from different careers. It is a 2-year full-time program. You're taking 3 classes per quarter. And for the full-time folks and part-time, there are two field placements. So you're doing field placement the whole time you are here at Crown. One of my favorite parts of my program when I was here, and I think continues to be for many of our students, is that the core curriculum for the full-time program is completed with a cohort. And so the cohorts are a group of 20 to 25 students you take four of your first six classes with. And this is really where you're able to start connecting with different people, either, making friends, learning how to study, how to be in grad school, and just building a kind of smaller community within the larger Crown community. It's where people I'm still friends with to this day. Most of them were from my cohort. So it really can help to build some really strong relationships. Um, the class size total for an incoming class is around 185 students. So again, that's not huge, but it's also not small. And so breaking it down into those cohorts is a nice way to get kind of the best of both worlds. We also have a part-time program, and the part-time program shares some similarities. There's also no background, specific academic or professional background required to apply. The part-time program covers 3 years for degree completion. You're taking only two courses per week or per quarter. There are still two field placements for the part-time program. However, how you're participating in those field opportunities is going to vary and look look very different than the full-time folks. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. This is a smaller cohort as well, usually around 15 to 20 students per class. And that is helpful. You join a cohort if you're taking your courses in the evening, which many of our part-time folks do, so they can work during the day, to build a cohort of people that you're connecting with who are, doing the program similarly to how you're doing it, who also, either working full-time or have caregiving responsibilities or something that's preventing them or making it so the part-time program works better for them. And so connected to that, it is designed for the working professional or people with other responsibilities. So so you can go to class in the evenings and work during the day, fitting in field as you're able, which we'll talk about later. There are some other enrollment options. So if you're interested in multiple master's degrees, we have some dual and joint degree programs. We have one here within our social sector leadership program. So that would be doing 2 masters here at Crown. We also have dual and joint programs with the public policy school, the business school, the divinity school. So if you're interested in learning more about how those work, we can definitely chat off post-webinar about any interest that you might have in a dual program. And for those who are currently enrolled at the University of Chicago College in their 3rd year or earlier, we also have the ABAM program to complete the master's and undergrad within 5 years. So now we want to shift to our curriculum. And so we wanted to kind of go over both the specifics of kind of what the classes would be that you'd be taking, but also why do we have the classes that we have, and what does this look like in relation to then what you might do post-graduation. So our curriculum is one that we have created to really respond to the changing societal problems and to equip students with different and critical skills, competencies, and values that are needed to make a greater impact and to have variety when choosing or pursuing their careers. We have a integrated curriculum that's looking really holistically at social work, education, and training. Training for specific skills, but also keeping a holistic approach where you're getting a little bit of everything. So both you can do what you want to do when you graduate, but also that the curriculum will follow you and be helpful as you transition or change specific careers or look into new and growing roles. These are the key curriculum characteristics. So there are 10 characteristics on the screen, and these are where, when we're thinking about the curriculum, what's really important to specifically in education at Crown, what makes us unique. Some of these we've already talked about, the different levels of practice, the field placement we'll talk about later. Um, what I pull from what I think is really important and one of the things that drew me to Crown and really made my Crown education great for me was the multidisciplinary perspective. I think social work is a amalgamation of a lot of different topics and areas. And so having a multidisciplinary perspective, having our courses and a lot of our faculty who are many of whom are social workers, but many are also coming to us from political science, sociology, psychology, economics, really creates, a world, a classroom and a world that looks very similar to the world outside of that classroom. And it helps to get you to learn different perspectives and where other people and professionals may be coming from. And so having that multidisciplinary, having that wide range has been it was really important to me and was really helpful in my studies. So that's just one, but again, all of these are going to be, we'll talk about research and evidence-based practice a little bit later as well. And so what does that look like in practice? So this is the specifics of the curriculum as it breaks down to like what classes you'd actually take. And this is for the full and part-time program. Our advanced standing folks will have slightly different in the core courses, but everything else will be similar. So for our full and part-time programs, students will take 9 core required courses. 4 of those being the core courses that are completed in your cohort, the social intervention, direct practice, and social interventions programs and policies. And then all students will take 2 diversity courses, a human behavior course, and a research and evaluation courses. Then students will all choose within the first year of the program one of these 5 pathways. So you'll see that the pathways are the things listed there. Every student will choose one. And within that pathway, they'll take 3 courses. The first is a foundational course looking at the topic as holistically and interdisciplinary as possible. And then you get to choose your 2 other courses within that pathway to, be sub areas or specific things that you might be interested within that pathway. In addition to the pathways, students will then also choose 2 levels of practice courses. And our levels of practice are listed kind of as we talked about in that initial slide around what the levels of practice are. They can be micro, looking at clinical courses like psychodynamic theory, cognitive behavioral. They can be meso level, thinking about organizations, community, or they can be more macro, policy analysis, advocacy. And you'll take 2 courses. They can be within the same level. They can be within 2 different levels. It's really going to be up to you and how you plan to practice social work. And then finally, 4 electives. And the electives are core classes of your choosing, whether that be more pathway, more levels of practice, different pathways, or classes outside of Crown. So you can also take classes at schools around at the University of Chicago that are not Crown. So lots of different choices and really being able to kind of create the program that fits best what you want to do initially and as you move through your career. There are also some certificates that students can take in addition to that curriculum. This would be something that would either fit in a pathway or be using some of your electives to take. We have our graduate program in health administration and policy, or GFAP, for those interested in healthcare. Our Kippert Scholars in Global Health and Social Development, if those interested in learning about international issues and how we're looking at social work kind of around the globe. School social work, if you're interested in working within a school and making sure you're licensed for that, that's a great option there. Our alcohol and other drug counselor training program, if you're interested in working with populations who are connected in some way to people experiencing problems related to the use of alcohol and other drugs. That's a really great program that can fit in a lot of different options. And then we also have a certificate in gender and sexuality studies. This is a program external to Crown. It is run through a central office. However, our students can participate in that program if your interest aligns with the gender and sexuality studies. A little about research. So I like to these slides because, as we saw in a couple slides ago, every student takes two research courses while they're at Crown. And I think that's really important because research is really what we use to inform and guide our best practices for evidence-based social work and social welfare policy. So while not all of our students plan to go and do research post-graduation, it's really important to know kind of what that research, where it's coming from, how to read it when you come across it, and also a lot of the skills that you might use in a research study would potentially come in handy as you're going through your career in a non-research position as well. Some of those skills are listed on this slide: conducting qualitative interviews, data analysis, drafting reports and issuing briefs, all of which have very transferable skills to a lot of what social workers do. Outside of the classroom, outside of those two courses that you are required to take, you can also get involved in research in other ways. And many of our students do, whether that be through research assistantships, both work study and non-work study opportunities of actually working with faculty on their research projects. There's funding through the university's Office of Research Administration if you want to be funded kind of on your own topic. And then we also have institutes and research centers across campus that students can become involved with, can work for, that do research around topics that are maybe not, they might not be housed in Crown, but they're very much related to the work that students are interested in doing here at Crown. The Crime Lab, Chapin Hall, which is looking at well-being of children and youth families in their communities. We have the Adoption Center, Center for Health Policy, if you're interested in that healthcare piece. So there's ways to be involved outside of the Crown, but still within the university as well. Field placement. Is Melissa here?
Yes, I am.
Yay! So I will turn it over to Melissa to talk about our field placement processes.
Thank you, Aleia. Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Williams. I use she, her pronouns, and I am actually one of the field coordinators in the field education office. I'm really happy to be here to talk to you a little bit about field placement opportunities and what that looks like here at Crown. As you all may know or may not know, fieldwork is an essential component of your experience in your master's program. And during field, you'll have the opportunity to apply a lot of the theories and techniques that you're learning in the classroom into field. And so your field placement process and overall your field placement will look different depending on what type of student you are and what year you're at. And so how does field placement work here at Crown? So for all students that are full-time students, you'll have two field placements. For your first year, you will have an opportunity to be participating in a generalist field placement. This placement will actually be secured for you. And when you get admitted and you accept your offer, you'll have an opportunity and be invited to complete a questionnaire, a survey, where you will share with us a little bit about what you're looking for your first year generalist placement. You'll have an opportunity to do some direct service work with the community, along with completing a macro project to be able to develop some of those macro level skills that you might be needing to develop, of course, during your first year field placement. Field in your first year, you'll have an opportunity to participate in that for 2 full days during the week, and then you'll be in classes the other days, and it will run all throughout the school year. But it's different for second year and advanced standing students. So for your second year field placement, you'll actually have an opportunity to do your interviews and do some research, utilize our database to find a field placement of your own. And so we have an agency database that we have about over 600 agency partners that are interested in hosting our students. And for your second year placement, you'll actually have an opportunity to look through our database and decide which placement aligns best with your pathway that you have selected at that time or the level of practice that you're interested in exploring. And you will do your research, apply to these agencies and then select the field placement that aligns best with your interest. A really great thing that we have coming up for our current first year students that are looking for second year field placements is our agency expo. So if you are a first year student at Crown, you'll actually have an opportunity to connect with over 60, 70 plus agencies that are interested in hosting our students in an event that we host, which is the Field Agency Expo. And our agencies come to our students and talk to our students about all of the great opportunities and field placement options that they have. And our students get to learn directly from our agency partners. And so it's a really exciting time that's coming up for our current students. And this would be something that you would be a part of if you come here to Crown. For our part-time options, we do have two different options. One of them is a 1 hour a day or two 4 hour days per week. And this field placement will actually continue over the summer, and it does require some daytime availability. For option two, your year one and two generous placement is determined by the field staff. You'll complete the questionnaire, same like our full-time day students, and then you'll complete your field placement for 2 full days per week. And then for year three, you'll complete your advanced placement, and this will be determined by the student. So you will do, again, the research, look through our agency database. But for our part-time students, just so you know, there is a field coordinator that will be assigned to you directly, and you'll be working directly with them to ensure that you find a field placement that aligns with your interests, but also that aligns with your schedule. As Aleia stated, a lot of our students that are in the part-time program have other commitments, professional commitments, other commitments that impact their schedule. And so we are very intentional with ensuring that we're able to secure and help you secure a field placement that aligns with your needs specifically. But that's a little bit about the process. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. I will share my email in the chat as well. But again, I think we have another slide that shares just in general some of our agency partners that we have. We have, like I mentioned, over 600 agency partners. They're all over the Chicago area in the suburbs. And we're always connecting with new agencies that are interested in hosting our Crown students. The exciting part is that a lot of our agency partners even have Crown alum that are interested in hosting our students and very dedicated to ensure that you all have a great learning experience during your field placement. And so, yep, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I'll share my email in the chat. And yeah, it was nice talking to you all.
Thanks, Melissa. Super helpful. Great. And I will transition it right over again to Robyn to talk about student engagement and development at Ground.
Hi, everyone. My name is Robyn Dimaano. Pronouns are she, her. I'm the Assistant Director of Leadership Development, and I work in the Dean of Students office. I'm also an alum of the program. I graduated a couple years before Aleia started, and I worked as a school social worker before transitioning to working in higher ed. Regarding the Office of the Dean of Students, in addition to being the office where you will receive academic advising support, we also offer opportunities for students to build your professional and leadership skills. We're proud to share that Crown is one of the few social work programs that has an individual who is entirely dedicated to career development. Our Director of Career and Leadership Development, Johnny Lascelle, provides learning, preparation, and planning for employment opportunities. We have a toolbox series that covers workshops with topics that range from building resumes, writing effective cover letters, interviewing, and networking. We also have a weekly career digest that lists current career events, fellowships, internships, and job postings. For our current students and alum, we have an internal job portal only accessible to current students and alum, where we update job postings, often from alumni who are looking specifically for soon-to-be Crown graduates. We host employer information sessions where we invite employers to campus to share professional job opportunities. Some employers often specifically recruit Crown students. We host alumni career panels where alumni share their experiences and professional journeys. For folks who wish to pursue their LSW and LCSW, we host licensure presentations where you learn about the licensing process in states such as here in Illinois, California, and New York. California and New York are typically the states oftentimes requested by our current students. As the Assistant Director of Leadership Development, I work closely with our student leaders and our student organizations. I do student leadership opportunities at Crown, including running our student government association and starting Crown student orgs. Student leadership is a great opportunity to build skills around organizing others, especially fellow students, for positive change. Whether you wish to advocate for issues within Crown or in the community, getting involved with student government or a student organization will help you gain experience in engaging potential members, event planning, managing budgets, and advocacy. It's also a great opportunity to build relationships with other U Chicago students, faculty, and staff. What's happening around Crown? Every year we have our annual Washington Week trip to Washington, D.C. during spring break. Johnny and I helped to coordinate this trip. We just sent acceptances to our student applicants this past couple of weeks. This year we will be bringing about 26 students to DC. During this trip, students engage with Crown alumni who work in the DC area in a variety of fields, including government agencies, NGOs, and this year we are hoping to visit, I believe, Brookings, a think tank, which is really exciting. The 3 days of programming, so we call it a week. It's really a really intense 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The 3 days are kicked off with a networking night, which is followed by on-site presentations, informational interviews, and panel discussion. It's a wonderful opportunity to gain insight into potential career paths, even if you are not interested in moving to the DC area. It's open to all Crown students, regardless of pathway, regardless of program. We brought Chicago historian Sherman Dilla Thomas, who has become a household name after his TikTok videos on Chicago history went viral. He literally knows all the Chicago history, and we had him give a presentation on Chicago's racial housing covenants and redlining, which created, as you may know, the hypersegregation and barriers of access in communities of color, which still very much impact folks today. What is that? We hosted a screening of a documentary produced by one of our alum, Eugene Robinson, called I3 Blackout. It explores the intersectionality of identity, being Black, a Black man, and a Black gay man in America. It was shown as part of the Chicago On-Screen Film Festival in Washington Park last year and has gotten some nods from a few international film festivals. Let's see. And last year we brought some students to Advocacy Day. So if any folks got their bachelor's in social work, you might have attended this in your state last year. Every year, the Illinois chapter for the National Association of Social Workers hosts a Social Work Advocacy Day where social work students, social workers from across the state come to the Capitol building, and then they talk about legislation that is really relevant to our field. Last year, we got on a bus. It was really early. It might have been 5 o'clock. It's only because meetings for congressional meetings happen really early, and Springfield's 3 hours away. But we talked about really cool legislation, such as social workers having the legal ability to carry Narcan, and let's see, advocacy for non-English speakers taking the LCSW exam, and then last but not least, advocacy around student social worker field placements. And then last but not least, our office also plans the hooding ceremony for all of our graduates, which is the balloons that you see over there.
Great, thank you, Robyn.
Mhm.
Did you want to do this slide too, or is this?
Yes, I also
Got
have
it.
this slide. So another cornerstone of Crown is our Civic Engagement Office. Every month, the Civic Engagement Office hosts civic treks. We're a series of off-campus visits that allow students to explore the civic issues shaping Chicago. This year, they have already visited the Chicago. For the first time this year, we were able to elect some of the Chicago School Board officials. And so that office did a civic engagement or a civic trek around that. In Evanston, there was a former alderwoman who passed the first bill ever in our country regarding reparations. She's in Evanston and now runs her own nonprofit. So there was a civic trek visiting her this year, and that's only the autumn quarter. So really great stuff coming out of this office. Along with Booth and Harris, Crown is a participating school in the Obama Scholars Program. This program brings together an interdisciplinary group of eligible U Chicago students and empowers them with education, skills, relationships. Last week, they had their leadership conference in which Obama himself was a speaker. And so as an Obama scholar, you get to be in the same room, which is really, really cool. Crown faculty, regarding research, Crown faculty are regularly hiring for research assistants, which is typically open to Crown Master students. And this is true across campus. There will usually be postings for research, as Aleia mentioned previously. And that's it for me. And I will also put my email address in the chat.
Wonderful, thank you. So for this slide, we like to kind of shout out some of the alumni outcomes or what many of our graduates have gone on to do. However, within social work, that list would be infinity long. There are so many different things that our social work students graduate and do. These are some of the kind of top places where people end up, especially right after graduation, working within federal, city, or state organizations, social service agencies, hospitals, working within the school systems, different court systems. But again, within these agencies and areas, there are students, graduates doing all sorts of things, and this is just a small list. So instead of going into too much more detail about that, I wanted to bring on Nikki to speak as an alum, kind of about her journey to Crown and since kind of what she's been doing.
Thanks so much, Aleia. I'm really happy to be here and share, my experience and my story with everybody. So, hi everybody. My name is Nikki Goodman. I use she, they pronouns. I am an alumni of the Advanced Standing program at Crown School. When I was there, it was SSA. That's what we called it. So the advanced program is again for students who've received their bachelor's in social work, which I graduated from Northeastern Illinois University in 2018 with my bachelor's in social work. Um, so I was able to take advantage of this advanced standing program. But what brought me to University of Chicago, so I'm a born and bred Chicagoan myself. I grew up in the West Rogers Park neighborhood of Chicago. I'm a Chicago Public School alumni as well. Kindergarten through senior year, I was a CPS student. Um, and school was never really, I never really had a great relationship with school for a very long time. Until I figured out I found out about social work. When I realized that I could, study social work at a higher level and have that as my career, I knew that that is what I wanted to go for. Um, I received my associates in art from Truman College, the City Colleges of Chicago. Shout out to them. Um, and then I transferred to Northeastern Illinois University to, finish out my bachelor's. Knowing that I was able to do the advanced standing program at whatever master's program I wanted to go to, I decided to take some time off and get some more experience in the field. Um, and just to go back to my bachelor's experience, my internship was at Zacharias Sexual Abuse Center, where I was able to implement curriculum to students in Lake County schools, pre-K through senior year, on keeping them, safe from any kind of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, sexual assault. And that's what really kind of gave me that taste for that meso level social work. And I really, really enjoyed that. And knowing that I wanted to work in a school system, as I realized that the schools are a great hub of resources for students. They are there 5 days a week. We should really be bringing these resources and these services to them outside of academics because they're there. So let's get them where they are. So I took a year off after I graduated, worked as a TA at Jewish Child and Family Services Therapeutic Day School. Found out that direct service was not really for me. Um, and then I applied to University of Chicago was actually the only program that I applied to, the master's program I applied to. I had done my research and I knew I really wanted to do a social work program that had that would be able to have a heavy administrative focus in, knowing that I did not want to do a micro practice, but wanted to focus more on like a meso macro practice. So University of Chicago ticked all of those boxes for me. The School of Social Service Administration ticked all of those boxes for me, and I fortunately was accepted, so I didn't have to, go apply anywhere else. So I started this program in June of 2019. I also found out I was pregnant with my first child the month that I started, so it was quite a journey that I was embarking on. And I ended up doing my field work at the Chicago Urban League Policy and Practice Center, knowing that I wanted to focus on like a meso or macro social work practice. I wanted to do my field work and working with policy, with social policy. So I was able to get a lot of really good experience there. In working with like city and state level bureaucracy as far as like getting policies written, updated, and with that human first and person first lens. So graduating, I had my first daughter March 4th, 2020, so about a week before the entire world went into lockdown. And then graduated virtually with a newborn in June of 2020. Um, the pandemic offered, my husband and I to spend our first year at home essentially with our daughter. Um, and I took some time off to just, not be in school, not work and enjoy being a mother for a little bit, but wanted to get back to work. So just trying to get whatever job I could at the time. I got a job as an adolescent crisis counselor with the Kenneth Young Center. And again, direct service, not for me. So I didn't last too long in that position. Knowing my whole entire journey through University of Chicago, I really wanted to work for Chicago Public Schools central office, knowing that I really felt strongly as about schools being that hub of resources for students, not just academic resources, but health and wellness resources too. Working in CPS central offices was something that I knew I would be able to drive that agenda in. Um, so I continued to apply to many different jobs within Chicago Public Schools central office. I applied to a lot of jobs within their Office of Social Emotional Learning, their network offices. If there was a job that, pertained to social work from the central office, I applied to it. Um, I eventually got hired on as a contact tracer in March of 2021 when CPS was starting to phase students and staff back into the building during the COVID-19 pandemic. Um, so, having this master's degree from the University of Chicago, I know was able to get my foot in the door for that position where, public health is not my background. I was able to like I said, get my foot in the door at CPS Central Office and really start to understand how they work as an organization. Um, Now I am the Healthy CPS manager, and Healthy CPS is the framework that we use in the Office of Student Health and Wellness in the central office of CPS that supports schools in meeting the 50 plus federal, state, local, and CPS developed health and wellness policies. So it's exactly what I wanted to do. And I was able to pick classes while I was at SSA to, help guide that kind of educational lens. So like I took classes like community schools policy and practice, um, urban adolescents in their families, communities, and schools issues for research and policy. So I was really able to pick and choose my elective courses to give me more experience and more knowledge on educational policy and how we can drive policy to break down these health and wellness barriers for students. And now that's exactly what I get to do for CPS. So managing this program, this was the final boss for me professionally. So now I need to go back to the drawing board and see, what my next move would be. But, this is exactly where I wanted to be and exactly, what I wanted out of my degree from the Crown School of Social Work and Policy. So it can happen. You just have to kind of, and I think this is a good lesson for just working in nonprofit and the public sector in general. You can't always get exactly what you want for the populations that you're serving immediately, but if you can get your foot in the door and work things around, you can get to the point where you are, doing exactly what you want to do to serve the communities that you're serving. So yeah, that's my spiel.
Wonderful. Thank you, Nikki. That's incredible. And I think that I've noticed that with my friends and like classmates as well. Is not necessarily right away, but within like 3 years, 5 years, people are pretty much either where they wanted to be or in a whole new place where they didn't expect to be but love. So I think it's not an uncommon,
Yeah.
kind of.
And even just with, the work that I'm doing now, a lot of our work is driven by grants, and some of those grants have like parameters around them of how we can spend them. But if I say like change the description of how I'm going to spend something so I can provide a service for students, then I'm going to change the way I'm describing it so I can fit it into this grant.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. We will go on and finish this up in our last 10 minutes. We'll get some time for questions as well. So quickly, here is an overview of our application. So we have our online application where you can upload all the documents. We need your transcripts from your bachelor's degree and any school where you attended courses. A comprehensive resume, your candidate statement. The candidate statement is a 4-page document where you're sharing about why you're interested in the program, what your goals are, what you've done. The prompts are listed on our website. And then 3 letters of recommendation. If you're currently or a really recent undergrad, 2 of those should be an academic reference. The third, and for those who are maybe a little farther from school, the all or more can be professional references as well. We have a couple different deadlines depending on your program. Our first deadline has passed. However, we have our January 15th deadline coming up for full-time, part-time, and advanced standing students, and for transfers for everybody. And we also have an April 1st deadline for full and part-time students. A cost breakdown, so you can see here, this is for the full-time program per year, what it currently costs as far as tuition. This will be adjusted for both advanced standing or for part-time as the number of classes per year or per quarter change. The student services fee, which is for all students to have access to the student services across campus, things like the wellness center, counseling services, the gym, are really important fee if you want to access all of those. Our one-time transcript fee is $78 that allows you to have transcripts for life, without having to pay for them every time. The UPass is $375 per year, and that is an optional fee. You can opt out of the UPass. However, if you're planning to use public transportation, it is a really, really wonderful pass, a really wonderful resource. It gives you access to all CTA trains and buses while in the school year. Can actually save you quite a bit of money doing it that way. And then the U Chicago health insurance, also a fee can be waived out of. However, students are required to have health insurance. So if you have health insurance already, can get it through work, a spouse, a family, then you can waive this fee. But if you do not have it somewhere else or can't get it somewhere else, then you will be required to have this one. Other expenses to consider as you're thinking about grad school, just generally, is things like room and board, books, personal supplies. These are all going to vary greatly depending on your living style and how you're going through the program. So definitely calculating this and making sure that you're preparing for those costs as well. For financial assistance, we have a couple of different resources here. The first is our Dean Scholarship, which is our merit-based scholarship that is application-based. So if you're if you apply for the program, you're automatically considered for these scholarships. And we award about $4 million each year to 98% of our students receive something, regardless of citizenship. So that would come with your admissions letter. If admitted, you'll automatically get that if awarded any scholarship, what that number would be. Many of our students use federal student loans, so if eligible, we highly encourage submitting the FAFSA as soon as you can, as soon as you submit your application. It is open for this year, and the school code is listed there. We encourage students to look at outside scholarships. Work study is an option. Some of those research jobs that we've mentioned, but also just jobs across campus, like our student workers, can be funded partially through work study as well. Research assistantships mentioned a couple times, outside loans or fellowships with things you'd be applying for separately from our program as well. We did do a webinar a little earlier this fall around how to finance your education here. So if you were not able to attend that, we do have the recording online, and I highly encourage a listen to that as it dives a little bit deeper into, I think, almost all of these things. And our contact page. So this is our contact information. So feel free to reach out with any questions. The best way, though, to get in contact with us is the admissions inbox, admissions@crownschool.uchicago.edu. We all have access to that and can answer questions as any of us can. So if anyone is out, especially over the next couple weeks through the holidays, we all have access and can help you out as quick as we can. We also do have a group of students that is able to meet with you individually, can talk over their phone, via email, or on Teams. One of them I didn't mention earlier in our call, Brittany Thomas is here with us today. So I did want to kind of shift it over. Brittany, if you could introduce yourself and share a little bit about your time here really quick before we open it up to some questions.
Can you see me?
I
Is
can hear
that
you.
on?
Yep, there you are.
Hey y'all, my name is Brittany. I use any pronouns used respectfully. I'm a current second year part-time student as well as a Kip Hart Scholar. A little bit about my experience. It's been pretty good so far. I think taking the part-time track as somebody who's coming out of a decade-long nonprofit career, already being a working professional and realizing that I really needed this component, that MSW educational component to add to my repertoire so that I can move up in this field. I've expanded so much as a human and as a social justice worker. When Aleia was talking about that holistic approach to the curriculum, that really resonated with me. I've had really incredible experiences with some phenomenal professors who really go the extra mile. You can tell that they care a lot about what they do, and they care that the folks entering this program are really taking this seriously and considering the kind of social worker they want to be while considering positionality, inherent bias, and just some areas that we need to brush up on because we only know so much about our lived experiences. And so really incorporating that diverse lived experience component to your education is very necessary. Being a Kip Hart Scholar, wanting to get that global perspective, because Westernized medicine is pretty dominant and it doesn't take into account the diverse lived experiences and identities of people who are seeking care the most. And so gaining that global perspective really helped me expand as a social justice worker even more. So I'm going to keep it short because it's almost 5 o'clock. I am a student ambassador, so I'm one of those students that you can take a call with, whether it's virtually, over the phone. I'm going to put the email address that you all can email me at if you have more questions about the part-time program specifically in the Kip Hart Scholar program, or if you want to just get a current student's perspective on what it's like to be a graduate student at an institution like the University of Chicago. I will say the primary thing that has helped me the most is solidifying a structure and stability for myself prior to entering this program. This is a hard program. The quarter systems go by really quickly. So really ensuring that you're able to curate your own graduate school experience for yourself so that this does not become a place where fun comes to die. I know that that's some things that people say. It does not need to be like that. Your graduate school experience does not need to be this really intense and exhausting and draining experience. If you know what you want to get out of your education, and if you have the structure for yourself outside of the program, it can be the program that you want it to be. But having the knowledge of what that means to you is really important prior to coming into this program. And that's been the biggest gift I've been able to give to myself. So I'll put my information in the chat, and thank y'all.
Thanks, Brittany. That is really, really great advice. And yes, the bookings link will also hopefully be in there if it's not already. So you can set up virtual calls with Brittany, or any of you have a specific interest in the advanced standing. There's advanced standing students. We've got a little bit of everything to help you out. And that is all that I have. I will stop sharing my screen. I'm not sure if any questions came in the chat while I was chatting away. But if you have any, you can also come off mute or put them in the chat, whatever you would like.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question that just came in. Do you have the numbers for what it costs for out-of-state folks? Since it's a private institution, we charge the same rate for folks who are located in Illinois as out-of-state residents.
Good evening. I have a question. What is the, I guess, number of years or the timeline for people who have graduated with regard to the types of recommendations that they need to have? For instance, I graduated in 2021, but I know that I'm not as connected to my university because I was also working full time as well.
Yes. So if you're able to obtain a academic reference, I would say just reach out and try. But if not, we would definitely accept professional references in place of that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely say just generally, um, for advice, the strength of the reference versus a specific type of person, it's great, but we do know, especially I think in this last 4 years, connection to faculty may be different, just with when people were in school. So that is, yeah, just generally really good advice. There's a question around, can students work and do practicum school at the same time? Full-time students. So that full-time students would I mean I would say no. I mean, I guess it could potentially, you had a very, very, very flexible work, but you wouldn't have any time to sleep or do anything else. Just the field placement is 16 hours a week, and then you're in class at least 9, and then with homework. So part-time work is feasible while you're doing the program full-time, but if you really need to work full-time, then the highly encourage the part-time, as that is going to lend you a lot more flexibility in being able to have some time for yourself as well.
Yeah, and I would just like to add that we do have some students that currently work at a nonprofit organization or work in a placement or a job that aligns with the social work competencies, and we've been able to have them complete their field placement requirement at their employment. And that would just require you to have a conversation with us. We would, of course, have to meet with your supervisor and go over some documents and ensure that, your current role aligns with some of those social work competencies that we want to ensure that you're developing throughout your field placement. But we do have a number of students that are completing their field work requirement at their employment. So that might be a good option for you. But we do have some field placements that are paid. They're very limited for specifically for our first year students. In the survey that you would complete for your first year field placement, we do ask if you are specifically interested in being considered for a placement that pays, because while we have some, they are limited, and we would make sure that you are considered for those and apply to those specifically. But for your second years, you'll have an opportunity to look through our agency database, and there's a criteria there that you can search for all placements that provide a stipend.
There's a question if you're interested in building our research skills, our coursework or opportunities to help with that. So yes, as far as research, so all students take full-time and part-time students take 2 research courses. Advanced students take 1 research course that is meant to both be foundational and an advanced, depending on where you're coming to research from. But those are just the minimum. Students can definitely take additional research courses if that's really where their interest lies. There's also field placements that incorporate research, so you can get the kind of foundations in the school and work in the field as well in it. So that's definitely a piece of it. And research assistantships would also be a great place. They would, definitely be training and helping with that process. They wouldn't be just throwing you in with no kind of foundations there as well. So quite a few options, no matter where you're coming to us from in your research capacity.
I can take the dual degree program. So about every year we have maybe 4 to 5 students who do the MSW MPP program. And so for any of the dual programs, students are assessed sort of the Crown tuition for the Crown courses and then tuition for the other program at their rate. So there are 2 different tuition rates that would be applied, but specifically towards those classes. And then if there's any scholarship awards, the scholarship would be applied directly, like Crown scholarships would be applied directly towards Crown classes. Harris, in this case, their tuition award would be applied directly towards their classes. So there's kind of a difference between the financials in that regard. But so not a lot of students, but a good number. It's not atypical. It's not uncommon.
Great, thank you.
There's a question on how to recommend highlighting our research background or professional experience in their statement or both. I think it depends on your ultimate goals, but both is probably the best answer. It's not a requirement to come in with research experience, but it can definitely be helpful, especially if it's in um, a relevant research area, or if that's something that you ultimately have a goal to do, research in some capacity, that can definitely be helpful. Um, Really your experience, especially in the statement, because the resume will have everything. So the statement should really be curated to how do these things kind of lead you to social work? How are they going to help you to get where you want to go alongside the education? So it's going to be slightly probably a different answer for everybody, but if it's relevant and it's important to you, then I would definitely include both. Um, And then there's another question, how soon after we submit our application should we expect to hear? So we do decide, make decisions and send out decisions on a rolling basis per deadline. So if you applied for the just January 1st deadline or the December 1st deadline, excuse me, we're working on reviews now, and as soon as decisions are complete, we'll release those, probably starting in January. So it could be any time from the beginning of January all the way through the end of January. And similarly, then once those are out or finished in the January 15th deadline, folks would then start to be reviewed and be released on a rolling basis. But usually between 4 and 6 weeks post the deadline.
Also, this is in the chat for international students who are here. International students receive consideration for both merit and need-based aid in the application process. And I also linked to some international funding options that have been identified by U Chicago.
Yeah.
So yeah, this might be helpful for you guys.
Great, Jamal. So there's also a question, at what point do we select a concentration level? So we don't have a concentration level that you submit anymore in that same sense, like micro or macro. You choose a pathway within your first year, I think in the second quarter of your first year. Your levels of practice courses, you're just choosing 2 courses, and that's whenever the courses are available for you to take. So if you know you really want to take a policy analysis course, you would just take that course when it's offered in order to complete that requirement. You're not declaring a level of practice, micro, meso, or macro. You could choose one micro class and one macro class, and that would fulfill your requirement. You don't have to declare that. So you'll get a good foundation in those first couple of quarters around getting a little bit of both, seeing which one fits best. As Nikki kind of said, like, is it for you or is it not? I have the same reaction. You'll be able to start feeling that out and then decide what courses you want to take and take those usually in the second year, maybe the very end of your first year, is when you start taking those specific courses. Great. And I do know we're a little bit over time. We had so many great speakers. So I want to first off thank all of them so much for attending this evening and sharing all the really wonderful experiences and resources here. And thank everyone for attending. This was great. I'll stick around for a few more minutes if you have any additional final questions. But again, please feel free to reach out to the admissions inbox or to anyone whose email was in the chat to ask any follow-ups. We're happy to help. Have a wonderful rest of your night and a great week, a great holiday season, and we'll hopefully talk to you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for breaking everything down for us. That was very informative. Have a happy holidays.
Thank you. You as well. I mean, you can stop the recording.